Lord, I thank you for the ministry of your word into our minds and hearts, and how when we think more about it, we think more of you, and we learn how to control ourselves, our minds, our actions, our tongue, and you help us to gain wisdom and understanding. And I pray, Lord, that you'll bless our class and that we'll really enjoy learning these scriptures and meditating on them through the week. For your glory. Amen. Amen. Okay, let's start with a little Bible quiz here. Don't look at your sheets. Put your sheets down. Turn them over. You know, papers down on the desk. Hands on top of the desk. All that stuff, you know. No electronic devices open. Let's do a few of these together. Let's start with verse A. As for God, come on with me. Come on. As for God, his way is perfect. What's the address? You did good. You did good. Verse B. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. Psalm 57:5. I always say 57:7 instead of 57:5. I got to put the 5 in again, not the 7. Okay, I'm glad that you guys came for verse C. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Nobody said that with me. Yeah, you got the passage, but nobody said the verse with me. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Ephesians 6:1. And verse D, do not be afraid or discouraged, for... Okay, somebody's got it right and somebody's not quite there. But we're good. You keep working on them. You got the gist of it down. Oh, and what's the text? First Chronicles. Right, very good. I use my flashcard system. Now, without looking at your paper, what is Ephesians 6:1? Parents in the Lord, for this is right. What is Psalm 18:30? Very good. What's First Chronicles 28:20? Boy, Alvis is jumping on this fast today. Very good, Alvis. Let's go over that one again. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Why? For the Lord God, my God, is with you. That's important to see. Why not be? Because the Lord God, who's my God, is with you. That's what was said. Verse E. Oh, you haven't done that one yet. Oh, Psalm 57:5. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. Very good. Well, it's good to quiz yourself that way. Verse A, verse B, verse C, but then also mix up the verses and just look at the text and see if you remember what it says just from the text, okay? Well, that's very good. And today we have verses E and F. There's a mistake in verse F I want to bring out. In verse F it says, for you are great and do marvelous deeds, plural, not singular, D-E-E-D-S. So add that S to the end of D. Let's go back to verse E. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. This is one of the passages I have for years used in doing pre-marriage counseling with people that are looking to get married together and talk about life together as a couple. And one of the things that is important to understand, not just for married couples, but for everybody, is to be quick to listen. We tend to, the human nature would say the verse this way: everyone should be slow to listen, quick to speak, and quick to become angry. You see? Just the opposite. That's what the human nature wants to do. You do not communicate with someone until you listen. Communicating with people is not talking. it's listening and then talking. A fair thing to do when you disagree with someone, whether it's a spouse or a child or your employer or your employee or whatever it may be, is to say, am I hearing right and understanding right when you say? And then you say it. Years and years ago, in the Roman days, Caesar days, Roman days, with the Senate, when they would be together, the rules of the Senate were that you had two different factions, just like we do with two parties. The two different factions, and they would be pro or con a situation, a law or whatever it might be. And the first one who's proposing the law, that side, somebody would stand up from that side and say what they are wanting to see happen with the law, the Senate, what it would do. Now, the other side had a time to then ask questions or rebut their claim. But you weren't allowed to do so until you first could explain what they just said to their satisfaction. Not your own satisfaction, but you explain what they said to their satisfaction, because many times when we hear things, we hear them according to our filter, how we see it, how we understand it. But if you're going to communicate properly, you need to be able to answer, to respond to somebody based upon what they said, not what you think they said or you think you heard what they said. So once they could say yes, so you respond, you say, is this what you said? Is this what you mean? And they, no, I meant that. Well, finally we get to the yes. Now you could give your point. And now they can't respond to your point until what? They hear what you're saying to your satisfaction. You might think you hear what somebody's saying, but if they don't agree that you're hearing me right, you're not hearing them right, you see? And that's why it's good to be quick to listen, because good communication starts first with listening, not with talking. Human nature wants to do what first? We want to talk first. We want to respond. We want to defend. We hear something, and we may be mishearing it, having something that we're thinking at the time, and it falls in, and we start to blow up and have problems. So wisdom says, be quick to listen. Be quick to listen, and then slow to speak, and slow to become angry. When it says slow to speak and slow to become angry, what's it talking about with the slowness? Okay, is that what the slowness is? No, it's don't talk slowly. What's the slowness? Think and pray. Don't be quick to give an answer. You may even say, this is good for, that's okay. What were you saying, George?
Don't jump the gun.
Don't jump the gun. That's very good. For like a situation where there's two people involved, whether it's marriage or work or wherever it may be, you may want to say, let me think about that for 15 minutes or so, and I'll get back to you. And that's good to do, rather than just blurt something out, is to ask for some time to think about it and then say, so is this what you're asking me to do, or is this what you're saying, kind of a thing? So many arguments and problems occur because we are not quick to listen. We're rather quick to speak. And this is just great seat-of-the-pants wisdom about how to handle things in life. Bob?
One of the things I constantly work on for years is when somebody's speaking, not already formulating, instead of hearing them, formulating in my mind what I'm thinking and what I want to say.
Yeah.
That's my weakness. I'm getting way
It's
better.
everybody's, Bob.
Yeah.
It's human nature. Did you all hear what he said? That while somebody's speaking, he's already formulating in his mind what he hears and what he wants to say and retort. Well, that's the problem that God is identifying about true communication. And you need to, communication doesn't start until you first listen. It doesn't start with speaking. It starts with listening. All right? Any other comments about that?
Well, you have Peter does that twice. Once when Jesus said he's going to Jerusalem to die, and he takes Christ aside and rebukes him. And the other, the transfiguration, where he wants to make these booths, you know, and he doesn't understand what's really.
He wasn't listening. He wasn't listening. It's really good if you just get in the habit of doing some of these things. Now, before I cover verse F, let me ask you, have any of you found a benefit in the last couple of weeks by working on these verses? Have you found any benefit? Bob, what benefit?
It's improving a few things, improving my concentration, absolutely improving my memory, and just having the Lord's, I'm just talking to the Lord and listening to the Lord in times I wouldn't without my index cards. And, you know, I have to refer to them a lot and practice hard, but I mean, you know, they're all bent up and everything.
That's good.
You know?
Bent up is nice.
So,
When they look like they're covered in plastic, that's not nice. Unless you covered them in plastic.
Like Alice. But to learn these things. You know?
Don't even do that.
Like you for what?
Put me on blast like that.
No, he was doing very well as far as explaining, you know.
Alice has improved this week over last week. You have. He knew he was starting the verses first amongst all of us each time. That's good. Alice, how has it helped you?
I feel more confident with what I'm saying to people because I can back it up with the verse if they haven't done.
Well, that's good. That's good to understand. That's good to understand. Anybody else want to have anything to mention about, has it helped you at all, being able to do this?
I have something. I think it might be helping me sleep better.
You know-
Because I'm doing it as I'm falling asleep.
That is, I'm glad you brought that up. That is one of the benefits of going over verses before you go to sleep. It will let you go to sleep. You know, it calms the heart. Unless you're worried about something and you're going over the verse to try to handle the worry. Any other comments on this? Okay. Well, let's look at verse F. Verse F says, "For you are great, and you do marvelous deeds." S, not D. "You alone are God." And it comes from Psalm 86:10. Let's go back to Psalm 86 and look at some of this. The ESV is very, very close to this, and the NIV and ESV are close on this one together. This is a prayer of David, and it's always good. It's always good when you have a verse that you're memorizing to look at it in its context. Never take a verse out of context. Don't make it a proof text for something if it's not what it's talking about. So the context is David is saying, "Hear me, Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy." What things in David's life would make him poor and needy? Obviously not his wealth. Obviously not his position. He's king. What would make him poor and needy, do you think? Ken?
Poor in spirit.
He could be poor in spirit. He could be low, right?
Right.
Spiritually low and need the Lord's strength. Very good. What else? There were some physical things that happened to David at times that make him very poor and needy.
When his son was chasing after him.
Yeah, that was years later with Absalom. Yeah, before his son, who else chased after him? Saul, King Saul, and he had to run and hide, and he did all kinds of things to try to escape. He says, "Guard my life, for I am faithful to you," and that's I think a direct relationship to Saul in that situation. It could be applied to Absalom too, but to Saul, if you're familiar. "Save your servant who trusts in you. You are my God. Have mercy on me, Lord, for I call to you all day long." He does something here that is good to do yourself as a habit when you pray, is to remind God of his promises and to understand that, "Lord, you promised to do this for me. Please do what your word says." Now you got to leave the timing up to him, but to plead for God's timing, for God's solution. Guard my life, for I am faithful to you. Save me, save your servant who trusts in you. You are my God. Have mercy on me, O Lord, for I call to you all day long. Bring joy to your servant, Lord, for I put my trust in you. And this is what was behind what he finally says in verse 10. Verse 5, you, Lord, are forgiving and good, according to abounding in love to all who call on you. Hear my prayer, Lord. Listen to my cry for mercy. When I am in distress, I call to you because you answer me. He's just reminding God of God's faithfulness, of what God has done and what God does do. And praying through the Psalms many times, praying with a psalm, will help you get your prayer life in order. You know what I find typically happens with Christians with our prayer lives? When we don't go to the scriptures and look for examples and listen to some of the things that encourages us. You know what happens to our prayer life many times? What's it get reduced to?
Asking for stuff.
Just asking for stuff, especially for me. Asking for things that I want. We many times stop praising God. We many times stop confessing things to God. We many times stop thanking God. And in asking for things we want, this is just typical of us. And it's right to ask for these things, but not only these things. We many times ask for physical things, especially health. Health is a big thing that concerns all people throughout the whole world. But as a Christian, we also have the confidence that because we know the Lord, if our health doesn't get better, what's our confidence? Heaven, and the Lord's going to take care of us one way or the other in these things. So having your heart and your mind set on things that aren't just about me and for me is important. There are ways you can do this in prayer. There are things like little acronyms to follow. ACTS, A-C-T-S. A stands for adoration. C, confession. T, thanksgiving. S, supplication, leaving the things that you want to the end, but to do the other things first. That's a good habit. Walking on the boardwalk, many times, I would make that my prayer time when I walk by myself. And I would use my fingers to do HOMES, H-O-M-E-S. All kinds of acronyms that you use to direct your prayer life so that it's not just one aspect oriented.
What's home? What's home?
I knew you were going to ask me.
Honor.
I'm drawing a blank right now. That's okay. You could show people how old I am. That's all right. I don't mind. I used
Great
HOMES.
Lakes.
Huh?
It's the Great Lakes.
It is.
You're right. It's the Great Lakes. It's not prayer. That's how bad I am, I'm telling you. It's the Great Lakes. There you go. I'm coming up with an H. What in the world was H? Oh, man.
Holy.
Holy, yeah, that's holy. It's holy. We'll find something today to put in it. But there was another one besides Acts, and I forget what it was that I used. And I had 5 fingers, and as I prayed, I would close each finger throughout the time. And it involved the church, involved my family, it involved many things. But forgive my lack of memory right now. But don't pray about things that you want, or things that you need, or just about health. Health is the easiest thing to remember, people's health, because there's always sick people, right? And if you think that it's true here, what do you think it's like in Malawi, where they have no doctors and hospitals and medicines, and health is constantly on their mind. They're just even looking for food, at times. So, but these things happen. But I learned this from them about Yet will I praise you. And they found many great things to praise God for, and they're destitute, but they're praising God. So I like to use the Psalms to help me learn how to pray.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to have you give acts again. I'm trying to catch that.
Adoration, which means to praise God for who he is, adore him.
Thank you.
C is confession, to confess your sins. T is what, Bob?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. And S is what?
Supplication.
Supplication. Things that I'd like you to do for me, Lord.
Thank you, because I was kind of pulling a Pastor Jim where I forgot what acts was.
Yeah. I forgot what the Great Lakes were.
Superior.
That is so funny. Can we cut that out of this?
Pastor, was it bless? B-L-E-S-S?
No, I wouldn't bless.
No?
I wouldn't know what
I
that
found
is.
one on,
What's bless?
for neighbors, body, labor, emotional, social, spiritual. I don't know, just different.
I don't think I can remember all those words. But to pray through a psalm, open your Bible. You know, how many times does the Bible record Jesus closing his eyes when he prayed?
None.
None. None. So can you pray without closing your eyes?
Yes.
Yes, you may. And you can put a psalm, you can open the Bible and have a psalm before you. And you can start praying as you work through it. Turn it into a prayer, a personal prayer. And it will help you especially to adore God and to thank God. It will help you greatly to get your mind off the S, off of a lot of supplication for yourself. It'd be heavy on the A and the T, and will help also with confession. It's great to do. One of my favorite psalms to go to get my prayer life back in order, because it gets out of order quickly. It really does. Are you disappointed in your pastor that my prayer life gets out of order quickly?
No.
It happens. And young guys, it happens. It happens to everybody. Don't be upset with it. Just go back and do the things. So Acts helps, but the best thing for me is Psalms. Psalm 103 is my favorite. I love to pray through Psalm 103. And it will get your heart and your mind back in the right place. There are many others. In this psalm, David he's reminding himself as he reminds the Lord of what God has done for him and what's been happening, what his circumstances are. He doesn't in fear say, "Oh God, help me." He starts at that, those are against me are overwhelming me and things of this nature. And then he finally gets down to the conclusion of it in verse 10 of Psalm 86, which is our verse. For you are great and do marvelous deeds. You alone are God. Now, you wouldn't have thought that verse was in the context of save me from my enemies. But it is. It's in the context of people are against me, my life is every day, people are looking for... It's in the context of all the things that are happening bad to him. He concludes it by saying, for you are great and do marvelous deeds. You alone are God. Well, what would make him say that in the midst of all these things? Think back to the troubles he had with Saul. What would make him say that?
He knows by experience that God's going to...
What experience? You're right. What experience does he know?
Well, when he's been persecuted.
When Saul was chasing him and trying to kill him, right? He saw God's protection. Remember when he was in the cave?
Yeah.
Saul came in to relieve himself, and David's, one of his people, one of his soldiers with him, what did he want to do?
Kill him.
He wanted to kill him. He said, God has put him into your hands. Take his life now. And what did David respond with? Don't touch the Lord's anointed. So what did he do? Cut off a piece of his robe. Saul left, went back to the people, and then David comes out of the cave and stands on the ledge and says, whose is this? Remember this? Whose is this? And then Saul's response was, you're holier than I am. You're better. You're right. I should not harm you. I'll leave you alone. And he left. Not for good, but he left. They come back another time, and more things happen like that, where he comes into the camp, and David is with another man, and the other guy with him wants to take the spear and run Saul through. Pin him right to the ground. He said, just give me one shot. I'll pin him right to the ground. Nobody even know what happened. And David said, no, you cannot slay the Lord's anointed. But he goes back, and he hollers to Saul, and he holds up the spear. Here it is. And your water jug. Here it is. I got these things. And once again, God rescued him. But he didn't rescue him the way you would think he's going to rescue him, by killing his enemy. He rescued him by following God and doing what God told him to do. And God kept him. Memorizing these verses, this is what it's about. It's not just memorize the verse to memorize. It's understand its context, understand the verse, and see how it would apply in your life and things that you go through and things that are happening to you. Many of us will have situations where people are against us. They're not treating us properly, as far as we can see, and things are harmed. Well, these experiences have been suffered by God's people, and it's not new. So how did they handle them? And that's what this verse will help you with. For you are great and do marvelous deeds. What is that doing with your mind when you say back to God, Lord, you are great and do marvelous deeds? What's that doing to your mind and your circumstance right now?
It's making me have hope and safety in Him, no matter what.
It's turning your mind on Him first. And to understand that no matter what happens in all situations, God is doing marvelous deeds. Though He slay me, yet will I trust Him. It's that kind of an attitude. It will help get your mind where it needs to be. It'll stop you from vengeance. It'll stop you from anger. It'll stop you from saying things you should not say. It's to realize that, Lord, this is who you are. This is the God I serve. This is the God I love. That's why you meditate on these things. That's why you put them to heart. Is so that you are great and you do marvelous deeds. I wanted to show you what the ESV says about that verse. Psalm 87. In the ESV, Psalm 86 verse 10 says this. For you are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God. The only difference between the ESV and NIV is in verse 10 where it says, instead of doing marvelous deeds, it says, and you do wondrous things. This is where having good Bible translations, 2 or 3 of them, is very helpful. Especially when you're meditating on these verses. Especially when it comes to Old Testament text. Because Hebrew, more so than Greek, in Greek you can sometimes do word-for-word translation. Not always, but sometimes. Grammar makes a big difference in the Greek, but you can almost say this word means this word means this now in English too. But in Hebrew, Hebrew does not have definite definitions for each word. It's very complicated. I did not like studying Hebrew. I'm glad I had to, but I'm glad when the 2 years of Hebrew were over. I liked the Greek because it was precise and you could understand things. But in Hebrew, well, it could mean this or it could mean that. Because it has a root word, and from that root word, other words come based upon what the grammar does to the root word. Doesn't make a lot of sense to you. But it depends on what comes before it, what comes after it in the word by the grammar of what it means. And I've used many times this illustration to you about the verb katal, to kill. There's a verb, it means to kill, and then what the grammar does to both sides of it determines what you do with it. If it says, I want you to exaggerate to kill, how would you translate that? Exaggerate to kill.
Slaughter.
Slaughter, that'd be a good one. What else? Murder.
Annihilate.
Annihilate. Are any of these wrong in translation? No. They're all right. Because you're trying to use your language to express what they mean by exaggerate to kill. What if the context was to kill, and you're talking about an animal sacrifice? Would you use the word murder for that?
No.
No, what would you say? I already said it. Slaughter or sacrifice. It's based upon what you do to the word and what does the context tell you to do to the word. So Bible translations aren't going to be exactly the same when you're reading Old Testament passages. And if you got 2 or 3 good Old Testament translations or English translations, it's good sometimes to see what each of those say about that verse. You can memorize just one that you wish, but let the others augment what you're seeing and help to explain it better and build it greater to understand in your mind what's being said. Ken?
So in your study, would you look for the most diverse translations to get an understanding?
The most diverse, not English-wise, but if you know which ones are translations and not paraphrases, or translations that are more try to be as literal as they can, but not interpretive.
So like the LEB and the NASB, that would be a good type.
They would be good ones, yes. New American Standard would be very good. The first one you mentioned is very good. And the NIV and the ESV and the NET, New English Translation, I like that Bible for study. It's about this thick, and it has 62,000 notes in it, but they're not notes like an author saying, talking about what this means and all. There are notes on the grammar itself, on the text itself, which are very helpful. It's called New English Translation, NET. Now, these kinds of things help you to understand better what it says, because as you're memorizing it and you're thinking about it and you're meditating on it, you want this information available to you to help you in your certain situation. To understand that it means, yes, it does mean to, how's it say it? You alone, to do marvelous deeds. It does to do marvelous deeds. But another way of seeing it is to say, you do wondrous things. Marvelous deeds and wonderful things are similar, but they have a little nuance, don't they? And it's good to include that nuance in your understanding of the passage. As you meditate on it. I didn't say memorize. What did I say?
Meditate.
What's meditation?
Chew on it.
Yep.
Chew the cud. As you meditate on it, it's important to see these expansions and different way of saying it so that you understand. Then if you miss it, what happens if you're memorizing a verse and you've been meditating on it, and when you spit it back, you actually combine what both of them said and you didn't get it exactly word for word. Is that still okay? Yes, because you're meditating on what God is telling you in this situation. Now, if it's a precise word that you should have, that's different. But especially in the Old Testament, it's also very, very necessary and important to look at the context. If you need to, go back and read about these situations. Read what happened that I mentioned about Saul and David and these times that he was captured and things. And then even as Tom brought up, the Absalom case later on in life. Read about these things and see how God came to his aid every time. It's very, very important to do. Questions on that?
Pastor Jim, the only one thing I would say is, if the passage is mentioned somewhere else in the Bible, you need to look at that too.
Yes.
Because just last week I spoke on the leper, and this one word in Mark says that Jesus had compassion, and Mark was the only one that brought that word out.
And that's good to see. And in the Gospels, you have 4 views of the same event. At least 3 most times, the synoptics, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But each one of them, like Tom just said, will have a little different thing to add or take away from. And it's like if you had an event occurring and you put 4 reporters at the points of the compass reporting on that event, they're going to report on it from what they see. And that's what happened in the Gospels. You're getting it from the perspective of that apostle as he's reporting on this event. And it's good to put them together. The more you do the more reading you do and the more you add to it, the more you build, the better you're going to be in your meditation of these things. And the meditation of these truths is what's going to help you the most, not just memory. Bible memory will help increase your memory. It'll help you think quicker. Even when you get 77, you'll remember that Holmes is the Great Lakes, things like that. But it's especially good for meditation. When you're chewing it over and you're chewing it over and you're seeing, and the Lord starts to give you examples of how to apply this to your life, your situation that you're in, because your situation is different than the Bible situation. Not exactly, but it's different. And you need to see what God has. Questions or comments on this? Yes, Bob?
Again, chewing the cud and that type of thing, even with like Psalm 86:10, and I've thought about that a lot, and at one time it applied for me because for you are great and do marvelous deeds. I thought it meant me. That's stunning. And
That's
it bowed
good.
my head, and I never think that.
Got your eyes off yourself onto God, right?
But the thing I do is I now...
Did you hear what he said? When he first looked at it, he was looking at, for you are great, you do marvelous deeds. He thought he was talking about him. He was talking about God, not Bob. As nice as Bob is, it's not talking about Bob. Right?
But the other part of that is that it disturbs me that I realize why I'm okay when I see other people and they truly believe the whole statement is about them. For you are great and do marvelous deeds, you alone are God. There is no, you know what I'm saying? The other extreme is, and it just helps me understand how misled they are. Basically.
That would be a funny one, yep. That's good. All right, others, we're going to make a comment about some of these things.
I have a question.
Yes.
The first three are synoptic. What's the term for what John is?
John's gospel is not synoptic. Synoptic means having the same things together. Because John talks about things that are not included in the others. He has stories that are not found in the other three. And it's still a gospel. It's still the good news. Yes, the Gospel of John.
Okay.
In the original autographs, they're not called synoptic gospels. Gospel of Mark, Gospel of Luke, so forth, Gospel of Matthew. But scholars have identified on that because the three pretty much stick to the same events.
Side by side.
And it's usually mentioned in at least two of the three. Only rarely is it only one of the three. John has many things that are only in John that are not in the other three. And it doesn't follow the same progression. In John's gospel, once you reach chapter 13, Jesus is now in Jerusalem. And the rest of it has to deal with his life up until the cross and right after, which some of them don't report on, some of those things. Matthew doesn't get there until chapter 26, 27, whereas John is there right away because of what he's trying to present. John starts his out completely different than the others. And I said last week real quickly, you may not have heard it, but I said when I want to read Paul, I'm reading Paul for theology and Bible doctrine. When I read John, I'm reading for understanding love. For John is the writer who writes the most about love for God, love for others. What is the love of God? Whereas Paul is the one who speaks most about teaching you who God is, what atonement means, what justification is. He deals with the theology mostly, not exclusively, neither exclusively, but basically. And John, as a writer in the New Testament, how many books did John write? 5. Gospel of John, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation was written different than all other books because it was a revelation, a vision to him that he's recording. But in all the first 4 books that he wrote, the Gospel of John and 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, there's more about love in those books than any other grouping of books in the Bible. That's why I say he was according to his own statement, the disciple that Jesus loved. Nobody else called him that, but in his own statement, he called him the one that Jesus loved. We'll look at that later sometime too. I don't know how I got off on all
I
this.
wanna know now,
You want to know now what?
John, why he said.
I don't know.
Oh.
Nobody else calls him that.
Right.
Now I think, if I jump ahead, I think it's because, now he wrote this after these events occurred, is because he's the one that Jesus said, take care of my mother.
Right.
Because he loved him, take care of my mother. And he was the only one of the 12, well, of the 11, Judas had already left and killed himself, but of the 11 that was there when Jesus was crucified. The rest of them all scattered. Only John was the witness, along with the women. So, I'm like an old teacher. You know what to ask me to get me off track. What else did you have? Any other comments you want to make about this?
You
All right.
said John wrote 5 books. How many books did Paul write?
13,
Yeah. Somebody said 17.
17?
Who was it? I think it is.
It's less than 17, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. He wrote all but what Peter wrote and what Jude wrote. He wrote the rest.
Okay.
And James. He wrote the rest.
Okay.
Has anybody else been missing? Yeah. Paul wrote the most in how many? Quantity. The most verses in the New Testament were written by Luke, with the Gospel of Luke and Acts. He wrote the most in how much? But only 2 books, but he wrote the most. And Paul wrote the most books, and he's second in line for writing the most in content. Make me come back with these old things I knew years ago there. Trying to remember along with Holmes. I'll never forget that now.
Neither will we.
I'll give you some good reasons. Okay, other comments or questions you make about Bible memory, meditation? It's more than memory. It's meditation. Once you've memorized it, don't stop. Keep working on it. Keep chewing the cud with it. Look and see what's there. See how it applies to you. Don't give up on it. So when you get you got these 2 new ones today, that gives you 6, right? You got 6. Keep them. Don't discard them. I have my verses on cards. I got 6 cards, and turn them over and quiz yourself with giving you the verse. Give you the page. I mean the text. What's the verse say? Try both ways to memorize it. Both ways, and then think about it. Just keep thinking about it. And you'll be like Bob. You'll get it off of being you, being on to God. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments for these verses? Noah, are you working on them? I gotta get you. Huh?
He will be now.
He will be now. Hey, what's verse C, Noah? Children, obey your parents in the Lord. He said, let's skip verse C. Yeah. There's one that I didn't give you, although I mentioned to compare in verse A. And this is one of my foundation verses. I go to this a lot. And it's Deuteronomy 32, verses 3 through 4. In my Bible, it's highlighted in yellow, and that whole section is outlined in red. So I can't miss it. And I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Oh, praise the greatness of our God. He is the rock. His works are perfect. And all his ways are just. A faithful God who does no wrong. Upright and just is he. Do you know how many times I need that?
What's the reference for that again?
Deuteronomy 32, 3 and 4. It's on your sheet under verse A. That is a foundational verse. And I love to just meditate on clauses of it at a time, just to really apply it in my situation, because it will take the hard times and the bad times and put them in the right perspective of how to deal with them, and to not panic and not to be frightened, but to have a rock to stand on. That's why he is my rock. All his ways are just. All his ways are just. Meaning in his eyes, they're just. I may not see them as just, but in his eyes, they're just. A faithful God who does no wrong, upright and just is he. Okay, thank you for your attention today. If you have no more questions, you're dismissed to have 5 minutes early, to have some coffee and extra things there. Recess time. All right, thank you very much.